So good morning. Just wanted to jump on today and talk a little bit about how somebody builds the identity of being a person with a bad back. It's a really like this for me is the missing link to a lot of people's recovery, and it's the words that they use to describe themselves. So, do you see any words on that you would like relate to? I mean, there's a million more that could have been picked from this, but do you see any of those words or any of those statements or those things about your problem and because if you do, I'd love you to let me know. And even if it's just one of those things, even if it's just one of those things, you have got that identity of somebody with a bad back. But it's really changeable. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But I think that one of the biggest turning points in recovery itself, right, is learning to listen to the way that you speak to yourself because there's clues of how you can actually shift and change your problem. Remember, nothing in back pain is certain. The diagnosis that people get that we see, the scans that people get, the narratives, the opinions that people get, a lot of the time, those things are not set in stone, but people act as if they are set in stone. And it upsets me a lot because I see people who find it so hard to break that narrative that they're always looking for that, let's do another test, another investigation, another, and then they just spiral into this, the depth of like no change and the depth of disempowerment and not having control over their situation, and they just keep going into that system hoping that the next thing will be the thing, but it never works like that. And usually what happens when that occurs and people are continuously seeking the cause, the structural cause, and more scans is what they end up with then is moving away from the lifestyle choices that they need to make and change in order to change and shift their situation. So they rest for long periods of time. They stay away from things and they wait. I hate waiting until things, wait, I'll just wait till I have more clarity. I'll just wait till I have, you know, you know, I waiting and that waiting can go on for 6 months, 12 months, year, 10 years, 20 years, and nothing ever changes. And it's a really difficult. I hate that. Really frustrates me. Is that you? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so we need to just, your words aren't, I want to understand that your words just aren't words, and your identity is built around the words you use on a daily basis. And their instructions, beliefs, their signals to your body, they sort of set the tone for what your body is to prepare for, and it changes your physiology. It tells your nervous system whether like you are like safe or whether something is wrong. And your physiology, your physical structure reacts to that. So the muscular tension you hold in your body, how you move, what you do, the actions that you take, and they tell, you tell yourself whether you're capable or you're fragile. And that builds that narrative. And if you spent months and years saying things like, I have a bad back, can't do that, my back is gone, I'm broken, I don't want to make it worse, this always happens to me, then without realizing that you're kind of like, you're building and rehearsing that identity of someone who is stuck. And you're not just describing your pain, like you're actually just strengthening the story around it. So you're fueling the situation, and the story becomes the pattern, right? And the pattern becomes the behavior. And this is why, like, the behavior then becomes your life because we are what we repeat. And this is why language matters so much, because the words that you use often reveal it shows you exactly the change that needs to happen. And if you continually say, I need to be careful, I need to be careful, the opposite is true in terms of the solution that you need for your back. Sounds mad, doesn't it? But stick with me on this because this is like something I guarantee you that you've not explored. And if you can shift to the opposite of what you're saying, therein lies the answer for lots of people. And that's why I created the Better Back Reset. Like I genuinely like, I've seen this pattern over and over, and it's so frustrating. And it's such a simple shift and change. But just knowing how to do it and how to stack up those things and those wins is so powerful. And again, you're not spending days and hours doing millions of exercises. You don't need to, but that identity needs to be broken because it's not serving you well. It's not based on a truth. I promise you, it's not based on a truth. And so that are building that identity and those words that you use, because those words are not certain. Nothing in life is certain. Life is wonderfully changeable. It's, when I see this in clinic, it's like people who say, like, I can't bend. I can't, my back is fragile. I've got to be really careful with things. It just keeps building that identity that's just not going to serve them well. And what I want you to do, right? If are you up for a challenge? I would love you. If you're up for a challenge, put your hand up. and work with me on this, okay? And all I want you to do today is just notice through your day, just notice how you speak to yourself, right? Just notice the words that you use to describe your situation. Notice the narrative before you do certain activities or certain movements. Notice where your mind goes most and the words that you use. What is the leaning? Is it more towards that identity of someone with a bad back, or is it away? I'd love you to notice and then tell me. And noticing and awareness is the first part of actually changing this, right? We've got to break the old identity there. And I think one of the things that your words do, which is amazing, right, is that they show you the clues. They show you where your fear is. It's kind of hiding. They show you where protection has taken over your life. They show you where the old identity is still running the show. Um, and once you hear it, you can change it. And I say this to people, like, it's not about just being fakely positive or positive thinking and all that type of stuff. I don't like that stuff. It's not pretending that pain isn't there, right? But it's choosing words that open a new path. Instead of like, my back is ruined, like, say, like, my back is a bit sensitive, it's irritable, but I'm rebuilding things. I'm doing things different again. And instead of things like, I can't do that, I can explore this gradually. I have to change how I move, because if I don't change, nothing will change. And again, that identity for someone is built around a lack of change, a lack of change in approach, a lack of change in identity, a lack of change in how that person moves, a lack of change in the momentum. When your momentum is all towards someone with a bad back, guess what you're going to get? I know it sounds pretty simple, but it is. And we've got to break that. And that's what the Better Back Reset does. I've done this with so many people over the years. And when you're ready, and when you see that, and when you start focusing on the things that matter, change happens really, really, really quickly. Okay. Does pain decrease really, really quickly? It's variable for lots of people, because pain is often normal, right? But what often happens is when we remove the suffering and the struggle around pain and the emotional distress around that pain, what you often find is that the pain contracts very, very quickly, and it starts to calm down. And it's a gradual process. I'm not going to lie to you and say that like your pain will just disappear. It doesn't work like that, because pain is a normal part of life. But what isn't normal is the suffering that often gets attached to it. And that process of change is gradual. It takes practice. It just takes that little bit of dedication and immersion into the change that you want to experience in your life. And when you immerse yourself in that, and that's something that I do with the Better Back Reset, is that we go all in on things. We have to make that change. Like, we can't be half in or half out, because uncertainty is distress. Uncertainty is why, like, a lot of people do a little bit for a little bit, and then they go back to the old habits, because the pull of it, it's very enticing. And little do they realize that they're just falling back into the same patterns over and over again. So that identity is something that you've got to change, and it's done by the words that you use. So today, right, just do this with me. You up for it? Brilliant. Notice the words you use about your back, your problem, your situation, and just shoot me an email. Let me know. And I would love to figure this out with you. Have a great Monday. Have a super week. Reach out to me. Remember, change is possible, but change is only possible when you decide to change.